Hey, everybody, Dave Hagan here. What are you doing with your tax refund this year? That's today on the Financial Wellness Podcast.
Welcome to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to financial success. Here is your host, financial problem solver and talk show host, Dave Hagan.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Financial Wellness Podcast, or TFWP, as we like to call it. We're coming to you from Van Nuys, California, San Diego, California, and Topanga, California today. And look who we have with us this week. I wonder, do our listeners go, oh, I wonder if it's going to be Nick. I wonder if it's going to be Brian. Maybe it's going to be Nick and Brian. Maybe we just have to settle with Dave. I don't know. But today we've got Nick. How you doing, man?
Good. I also go by the announcer these days.
The announcer? I like that. That sounds good.
Everything's good, man.
That sounds good. Is this something you could put on your resume, like announcer for TFWP?
Oh, you know it in extracurriculars. It's exactly where I put it.
Actually, that's a good idea. It makes you look a little more well-rounded, right?
Thanks, Dave. Anyway, everything is going well here. I hope everything's doing well over there.
No complaints here. Happy to be alive. Happy to be above the ground. Happy to be enjoying life this April 15th. So April 15th, I usually don't like this particular day, but it's good this year. Normally on the 15th, it's time to get your taxes done. If you got a corporate return, it's due 3/15, and those personal returns are due 4/15. Do you get yours? You get yours filed yet, Nick?
I did. Did you get anything, Dave? Are you getting a refund?
No, I'm not getting a refund.
Why?
I'll tell you about that in a little bit at the end of the podcast. There's a reason. In fact, I was following my suggested protocol, but I'm going to suggest that protocol maybe a little bit later in the podcast. So stay tuned. It used to be that when I would get that refund, I would think, hey, what can I go blow it on? Let's go blow it on something fun. It's money that I hadn't planned on having or didn't plan on having. Maybe I should have. And I would go back and blow it on something. Not sure that's the thing to do. And that's what we're going to talk about, here today. Did you get a refund, Nick? I know you filed.
Not yet, Dave, but
no,
what about you? Yeah.
No,
what about you?
Well, I'm gonna have to write a little check. But again, that's part of my plan is not to get that refund. But again, we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Are you the kind of guy, Nick, that files your return early? I was always a last minute guy.
Dave, I've always been anxious, for better or worse. Yeah. And so I filed my return about 2 weeks ago, and around the first of the month, give or take, maybe a little earlier.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And, fortunately for me, I've only been an employee and a law student, so I don't have much to write off, which we may or may not get to later on.
Right.
And, maybe if it was more complicated and I was some of these attorneys on TV, maybe in 20 years, there you go. I might push for an extension or something else. But no, I did file about 3 weeks ago.
I was always the kind of guy that would wait until the last minute, and then I'd have to drive over to the airport to hand it to the mailman so I would get a stamp date on 4/15. I hate counting the beans a year, 3-4 months after the year is over. I don't like that. And then I look at how much of my money they took, and I don't like that. And then I see how well they spend it, and I'm being facetious. I don't like that. And so the whole process has never been that much fun for me. So I would always put it off, and that's not the thing to do. But that's what I did in years past. I just want everyone to know where I'm coming from. So I've been thinking about this whole topic about this refund and how people might spend it. And I've been looking at articles on the internet, and I was even watching a show on this as well. I got to tell you, Nick, I was sitting in a chair getting a pedicure a few weeks ago, and I'm watching some, financial specialist person coming to the TV from their closet, and they're talking about what you should do. What surprises you about that?
That you got a pedicure.
Ah,
I mean,
I knew you'd say that. Yeah, yeah. I was sitting there.
well, it's actually funny, Dave. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
My one of my ex-girlfriends, she always was like, Nicholas, like, let's go get a pedicure. Let's go get a pedicure. And I was just like, is that the thing to do? And I'm kind of in that mode for relaxation. So Dave, I might spend my refund on a pedicure.
Oh, only a little piece of your refund on the petty. I got to tell you, it's one of life's little pleasures, and it's a way to stay nice and neat and clean, and I really like it. I remember one time at the end of the year, we took the whole law office, and we went over and lined them up in the chairs, and there must have been 7 or 8 of us getting petties, and to watch stiff lawyers getting their feet worked on was really a joy. I'm telling you. So anyway, I'm looking at these shows and I'm reading these articles and I'm going, one, what would a true TFWP follower do? And two, I think I could be a lot more interesting than this blah, 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 because our listeners aren't going to be necessarily getting a petty while we're doing this talking, right, Nick?
I mean, I might be. I'm a listener. I'm a listener. I'm a listener.
That's true. That's true. But here are my thoughts on what you should do from a TFWP point of view. Number one, pay debt. If you got debt, you should pay your debt off. I hate to say it because it sucks. If you have debt, it's not really your money, that refund coming in. We discussed this a couple of years ago in a show that we called It's My Money. And we said, if you got debt, it's really not your money. It belongs to somebody else. That's money that you got to pay out. So I hate to say it, it takes the air out of the whole podcast. But, if you got debt, you should use your refund to pay the debt. Maybe slice a little piece off for a pedo and get your toes done. Get your toes done. But if you're already on your TFWP journey, you don't have to do this. And you see how freeing this is if you have your house otherwise in order and you've already paid off your debt. Well, now you can move on to the next step and you don't have to worry about this. So this is a way that we like to think that, following these 5 steps to financial success makes sense. And it actually is a lot of fun to follow once you internalize it and bring it into your soul. So that's number 1, pay debt. Number 2, fund an emergency fund. And yeah, okay, this is only slightly more fun than paying down debt, maybe a little bit. Remember, we've said all along that you should have 3 to 6 months of your nut in liquid funds set aside, your operating expenses set aside, and this will give you a lot of peace of mind. So you're still putting money aside. You're not doing anything specific with it. You're holding it off on the side. But what you should do is make sure that your emergency fund is set up, and it'll give you great peace of mind. It'll help you know that you have it for the future. You may remember we spoke, a year and a half ago with Matt, and we did an episode on that. And he just talked about the sheer joy and the peace of mind of having an emergency fund. And then we spoke with Amanda, our resident millennial, and she was talking about how she had just put together an emergency fund when COVID hit. And that was what was keeping her solvent during the COVID crisis, and then ultimately allowed her, as everything was starting to loosen up, to go out and get really a job that she really wanted rather than a job that she was looking at just to pay income. So, number 2, fund an emergency plan. Yeah, you should. Number 3, boost your retirement. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's not very sexy, and retirement's a long way off, but maybe, that money will compound a lot um, over the years. And the more you attack that retirement plan, the better retirement you'll have, or retirement fund you'll have when you retire. And again, we don't like to say retirement here at TFWP. We like to say, hey, that's when I'm self-sufficient. That's when I'm going to stop working full-time and pushing as hard. Retirement used to be, hey, when my body is tired and used up and I can't do anything. And I think that that's a passe concept. Retirement should be called something different. Nick, we've talked about it so many times. But
Dave,
probably the best word we came up with was
did you
financially
say
independent.
did you say fire? Did you say fire?
I like your thought. You're internalizing this stuff. I like it, Nick. FIRE standing for financially independent, retire early. We've done several episodes on that. And that's a good thing. If you can retire early, I encourage it. It's like having a second helping of dessert. If you can do it, I highly recommend it. But here's a thought. Here's a twist on that. How about not boosting your retirement fund? How about creating another retirement fund altogether? And by that, I'm talking about consider a Roth IRA. If you're eligible, you got to check with your accountant and see if you're eligible, because if your income's too much, you may not qualify. But you can set up a Roth IRA, and the money that you put in is after-tax money. You can always pull it out tax-free down the line if you need it. These are your contributions, because it's after-tax money going in. And when you retire, when you can start withdrawing that money, when you're 59 and a half or 60 or whatever it is, again, check with your accountant, you can take that money out. All that money growth over the years is tax-free. So many people have IRAs, and the growth of their IRA over the years caught up inside the IRA, and now they have to pay tax on it at income rates. So that's not cool if it's a lot of money, especially if you got some other sources of money when you retire. It's something that you certainly want to think about. Here's another thing to consider. Think about this. If you're currently 30 and you get a refund of $1,000, just a scenario, it won't be this exactly, but just as an example, and you take your $1,000 refund and put it in a Roth IRA, and you do that every year for 30 years, and that money is invested in an ETF fund that resembles the S&P 500. So relatively conservative stuff at a decent rate of return. How much do you think that $1,000 a year for 30 years that you put in, that has been compounding, is worth at the end of that 30-year period? About $200,000. Now, wouldn't it be nice to put 30,000 in over 30 years, and when you want to take that money, oh my goodness, you could pull it out and have 200,000? I like that. Heck, you could go around the world. In fact, I looked on some websites today because I was kind of psyched about this. And if you want to do a round the world cruise, all the food, all the entertainment, all the blah, 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 100 days, 180 days, it's about $100,000 a person. That would be something to aspire to when you retire. So talk to your accountant about eligibility. Again, if you make too much, you don't qualify. But the years that you do, you drop that money in there, just commit to yourself, whether it's under 1,000 or over 1,000, and leave it there for 30 years. I'm not even assuming that you're starting to do this when you're 25. I'm saying, hey, 30, and that you're going to retire or become financially independent when you're 60, 30 years later. You'll have this pot of money that you could use for a cruise. So this is something maybe that you don't want to miss out on money that you may not even plan is coming to you, and money that you may not even miss. Sounds pretty interesting to me. Number 4, overdue repairs or improvements. Should you spend the money on that? Well, maybe. That stuff needs to get done, so perhaps. However, your repairs or improvements should really be part of your yearly spending plan, and you really shouldn't need to do that. But unexpected stuff comes up, and if something unexpected does come up, do some repairs, do some improvements, I suppose. But remember, don't trick yourself into calling a new jacuzzi in the backyard a home improvement. That's not. You're buying a depreciating asset. You're buying something that's awful lot of fun, but perhaps not necessary. How about save? Most of the people that I listened to and read said, look, if these other things don't work, you can save. And I got to tell you, this is when I really started thinking about putting together this podcast, because just to say, oh, I'm going to save the money, that's way too boring. Oh my God, that just like pulling teeth to me. Think of it as an opportunity to deploy more of your capital. Remember, Warren Buffett said, even in this year's shareholder meeting, he said, hey, this is how we deploy our capital. And if you think about it like that, with the possibility of increase in value or interest, it's pretty exciting stuff. So yeah, absolutely, you could save. 6, what about other TFWP steps? Well, you could consider that. We've only talked about the first couple, getting rid of debt and creating an emergency fund and getting money in retirement. There's a couple other things that we haven't suggested, but remember, there's 3 other things after the first 5, and that was the additional steps of considering housing, considering education, considering charity. And you're thinking, Dave, you're going to tell me give away my refund? Well, probably not, but it's something to consider, and it should be part of your annual plan. So it depends on how into being a TFP, follower you are. If you've got the first 5 things covered, you could think about these other 3 things. And you see how we're talking about when money comes to you, how you should go back to your 5-step plan or go back to your yearly plan or 10-year plan to see how it fits in. Don't just blow it. Yeah.
But I mean, we've talked like about 5 or 6 things about what to do. Mm-hmm. What should we not do?
Well, anything short term, anything depreciating, like just don't go out and blow it. I mean, I'm not talking about buying a French horn. I'm talking about just going out and doing something really ridiculous with it. Hey, let's go to 5 French restaurants in 5 nights. Let's jump in a car, airplane, whatever, and go somewhere completely frivolous. Certainly don't gamble it. I don't think that the odds there are any good. And I put crypto in that category. But you could use some of it for entertainment. If entertainment is part of your yearly plan, if that's what you plan to do, have a certain amount of entertainment, but certainly don't spend it on depreciating assets. I mean, I used to go out and I go, oh yeah, I wanted a bike and I wanted a VCR and a this and that. And before you know it, it's all used up, it's gone. And the power of that money down the line, the power of that money to compound so many times, I had lost that. So do as we talk, not as I do or did, I guess I could say, right? Going back to crypto for a minute. Wow. What a lot of change in crypto recently, huh? Nick, you were telling me, you told me Buffett was doing crypto.
No, I sent you an article that said he was.
Well, I think he was doing a bank that was banking crypto somehow. So maybe
I never gave you my personal financial opinion about what he was or was not doing. Okay. I am not someone who can give financial advice. I'm actually basically out of crypto at the current moment, Dave. And
good for you.
I have student loans that I need to pay back, and I can't afford a liberal approach to my money. I need a more conservative approach, like the S&P, that I know will appreciate 5%, 6% until I pay off my debt.
Well, now, do you think the fact that you're not doing as much crypto is a result of me harping on you, or just having a drier-eyed view of things now that you got to get up and go to work every day?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I think
Mix in a little maturity too.
I would say a lot of maturity, the
Yeah, yeah,
fear of not paying back bills.
right.
I did not know, President Biden was going to extend the moratorium on paying back student debt to August. And
Yeah,
so
what's that about? He said he wasn't going to do that.
I can't tell you what the president's going to do or what he's not going to do. I can only tell you what I read in the headlines. And
Oh,
so
it's a crazy thing. Yeah.
I was ready to, have my first payment next month. Fortunately, I don't have to.
Wow. So what are you going to do with that money that you'd already set aside? Buy some depreciating assets?
Yeah, like a jacuzzi in my apartment building.
I like
Exactly.
it. Yeah, I like your style. I like your style. It means you got more money for investments, right? Or more money to deploy in other kinds of things. But I think that the article that you sent me said that he had invested in a bank that was doing crypto, not crypto per se. So he's not subject to the wild fluctuations, and that fits in. He likes to own the utility that does the job, like the railroads that he's bought. In fact, he just bought a big piece in Allegheny, like another railroad. So the guy just you just can't stop him. He just keeps doing the same thing. So
Well, anyway, Dave, I think we're getting off
I
topic.
think we're a little off topic, but I wanted to digress or walk down that alley just a little bit because I thought there were some interesting things there. These are all things that you can do. These are all things that are good. But here's my best tip. Don't let the government hold your money. I know that it's some people that treat it like forced savings. I remember years ago talking to someone say, "Oh, I over withhold because it's like forced savings, and then they have to write me a check at the end of the year." Yeah, but they're holding your money interest free all that time, and don't let them hang on to your money and not pay you interest. Don't do it. You're losing all that time, which is one of the key elements that you need for investments. It's much easier now, instead of having them automatically withhold, just to do an automatic withdrawal from your bank account if you just don't have the discipline to do it. But what you need to do, big tip, none of the advisors pick this up. Get with your accountant and figure out where you need to come out to be just about even at the end. You can owe a buck or you can pay a buck. There's never any absolute way to know the exact dollar amount, but you can project out pretty good. And I'll bet you some of these software programs will even let you do projections. And you do projections at the end of the second or third quarter. Remember last week, Nick, you weren't here, but last week we were talking about this being the end of the first quarter, and it's time to take stock and see how you're doing in the progress and whether you need to change some of those goals or delete some of those goals or create some new goals based upon what happened in the first 3 months of the year. But maybe part of that analysis can be, hey, let me run a tax projection. I don't want the government to hold my money. By the same token, I don't want to have to write them a big check. In fact, if you're not withholding enough, there can be penalties about that. So, at the end of every quarter, you run a quick little projection. How am I doing? If you just have wages, it's pretty easy. You just take the number off your, end of the quarter paycheck, drop it into TurboTax, figure out what it is after you take some of your deductions. If you've got something that's a little more complicated, Nick, like losses and profits from sales of stock or crypto, see how I worked that in there?
Dave, what are losses? I don't know what those are.
Oh, I think a lot of people have lost in crypto. A lot of people made money. I'll give it to you, but I think people have already lost money in crypto. But people are going to have losses in anything. Warren Buffett has had losses. By the way, Warren Buffett, we talked about several months ago, had actually been swindled by a guy that was up in the San Francisco Bay Area, was talking to people about portable solar units. And it turned out the guy was running like allegedly a Ponzi scheme. And he just got sentenced to, I don't remember exactly what it was. Just today it was in the news, like 6 years or something in prison for running this Ponzi scam.
Wow.
And this stuff happens. I mean, this guy swindled, this guy bamboozled perhaps the best value investor of all time. I don't know how in the hell he did that, but that's another interesting aside.
Wait. Are you telling me the best value investor was not Jordan Belfort?
Not going to say that. No, I'm not going to say that.
The wolf himself?
No, not gonna say that. We're big fans of Warren. By the way, as long as we're on Warren, we're going to go just a little bit more off topic. The Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meeting is in 2 weeks in Omaha, Nebraska. And remember, I said that they have the shareholders meeting on Saturday, and everyone crowds into a basketball stadium. And he and Charlie Munger, in the past, have answered questions for 2 3-hour segments, which is phenomenal stamina for anyone, but exceptionally for these two fellows who have an abundance of years about them. And they also, in the next room, have a convention center where they have all the different companies that they own, and you can get slight discounts on stuff. They own a lot of Dairy Queens. I think it's Dairy Queens. And so everybody can go buy a chocolate-covered vanilla ice cream bar for $1, or Brooks tennis shoes, which they own, not tennis shoes, running shoes, for a couple bucks off, or C's candy, not big discounts. And they're not handing out a lot of free. When I was there last time, I went up to the C's booth where they were making C's candy. And I go, wow, when this is done, you're going to be handing out samples? And they go, no, you got to buy this stuff, fella. And I thought, wow, that's true Warren Buffett. No free ride. But you do get a picture of Warren and Charlie on the box. So for whatever that's worth. If any one of our listeners are going to be there, shoot me an email through the website, and we'll make a point to either meet for a drink or meet for one of those ice cream bars covered in chocolate. So to look back at this, when you get your tax refund, what should you do? Pay debt? Yes. Help create your emergency fund? Yes. Boost your retirement? Yes. Or better yet, maybe create a new retirement fund. Really digging the Roth IRA these days. Consider overdue repairs or improvements. Yes. Save? No. Invest and deploy your capital. Don't save it, too boring. You can consider the other TFWP steps. Consider how it might augment housing, education, or even, oh my God, do I dare say, donate to charity. What you don't want to do is anything short-term. Don't blow it. Don't gamble it. Don't just go out and spend it all on entertainment. And please, please, please don't think that you're investing it by buying depreciating assets. And the biggest tip, the grand tip of the day, if you will, don't let the government hold your money. Adjust your withholding so that you come out just about even. Nick, at the top of the show, you had asked me if I got a refund check, and no, I didn't, because I planned it out that I wouldn't be getting any money back. I don't want them holding the money. We had that money invested. We got a fairly decent return, except for the last few months. And we sold some securities about a week and a half ago, so that we'd have enough to make up any difference on the tax that we owe. That's how we did it. It's not perfect. It's not mandatory, but it's something to think about. This is Dave Hagan, and you've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast.
You've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to financial success. If you have a question that you would like Dave to answer on the podcast, go to thefinancialwellnesspodcast.com. You can leave an audio message with one click of a button, or type your message into the question box. Either way, it's sent right to Dave's phone. Remember, Dave will randomly draw from the submitted questions and pick the winner of a free 1-hour personal conversation with Dave to help you achieve your financial goals. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you receive the new episode notifications, or share the podcast via the app with your family and friends. This is your announcer, Nick Appel, wishing you every financial success.